Oh my God, hindi naman gano'n. Iba naman si Manny Pacquiao. I think nasa ibang level na siya. I mean,
For the very first time in Australian Open history, a player's Grand Slam debut triggered a surge of support so massive that tournament organizers were left scrambling to respond. What unfolded in Melbourne wasn't just another early-round tennis match tucked away on a side court. It was a cultural moment, a powerful display of national pride, a reminder that tennis, at its best, is about far more than rankings or seedings. Court 6, usually a quiet and unassuming venue, suddenly became the loudest, most emotionally charged stage at the entire tournament. At the center of it all stood Alex Eala, just 20 years old, playing her first Australian Open main draw and carrying the hopes of an entire nation on her shoulders. From the moment her match was announced, it was clear this wouldn't be business as usual. Hours before the first ball was struck, Filipino fans began pouring into Melbourne Park. They came waving flags, wearing national colors, chanting her name, and turning a routine matchday into something that felt closer to a festival than a tennis event. Court 6 was never designed for this. It's a compact court, typically reserved for lower-profile matches, with limited seating and minimal infrastructure. But on that day, it was overwhelmed. Fans packed every available seat. Others stood shoulder to shoulder around the entrances, desperate just to catch a glimpse of their hero. The noise echoed across the grounds, spilling into nearby courts and drawing curious glances from spectators and players alike. Even veteran Grand Slam champions competing on larger courts could feel the energy. This wasn't manufactured hype. This wasn't social media noise. This was real, physical presence, passion made visible. According to tournament insiders, Alex Eala's match generated nearly 20 times more media interest than several matches featuring reigning Grand Slam winners. That statistic alone sent shockwaves through the tournament's operations team. Michael Young, a senior Australian Open organizer, would later admit what many had already realized in real time. They had dramatically underestimated Alex Eala's drawing power. Not her tennis ability alone, but her global reach, her cultural significance, and the emotional connection she had forged with fans far beyond Australia. This wasn't a planning oversight rooted in chaos or misconduct. It was a simple failure to recognize impact. And it's important to be absolutely clear about one thing. Nothing that happened that day crossed ethical or safety boundaries. There was no violence, no vandalism, no malicious disruption. What unfolded was sport in its purest, most electrifying form. Fans showing up for one of their own, supporters expressing pride, joy, and belief. The kind of atmosphere that sports organizations dream of creating, not suppressing. Tennis icon Martina Navratilova quickly understood the significance of the moment. She highlighted a truth that modern sports can no longer ignore. Popularity matters. Fan bases matter. Global reach matters. Tournaments like the Australian Open are no longer just athletic competitions. They are global entertainment events. And when a player like Alex Eala brings millions of eyes, voices, and hearts with her, the stage must rise to meet the moment. Navratilova emphasized that anticipating crowd interest is part of respecting the sport itself. Rising stars don't announce themselves only through rankings. They announce themselves through the people who follow them, believe in them, and show up in overwhelming numbers. Alex Eala's presence on Court 6 proved that her star power had already outgrown the space she was given. For Alex herself, the experience was deeply emotional. She later described it as both heartwarming and overwhelming. Stepping onto a Grand Slam court for the first time is intimidating enough. Doing it while thousands of voices chant your name, wave flags in your honor, and turn the match into a national celebration elevates the pressure to another level entirely. Yet she embraced it with grace, gratitude, and composure far beyond her years. The Filipino community's message was unmistakable. Talent deserves visibility, passion deserves respect, and representation matters on the world's biggest stages. Fans from across the globe took notice. Broadcasters took notice. Commentators took notice. What began as a single first-round match transformed into a moment of reckoning for how tennis recognizes emerging stars from outside its traditional power centers. In the end, this was never just about one scoreline or one result. It was about presence, about impact, about a young athlete stepping onto the global stage and, without saying a word, forcing the world to pay attention. Alex Eala didn't just play her first Australian Open match. She made a statement that will echo far beyond Melbourne Park. This wasn't just tennis history. It was cultural history. Tournament organizers may have underestimated Alex's pulling power, but her Australian Open debut revealed a deeper, universal truth about modern sports. Sometimes, it isn't the athlete alone who reshapes the game. Sometimes it's the fans, the ones whose passion is so loud, so unified, and so impossible to ignore that the entire system is forced to adapt. Alex Eala isn't just another young prospect climbing the rankings. She has become a catalyst, a symbol of how tennis is evolving in a globalized world where representation, connection, and national pride matter more than ever. What unfolded on Court 6 was not an accident. It was not manufactured hype. It was the natural result of a nation standing firmly behind one of its own. Filipinos didn't travel to Melbourne simply to watch a tennis match. They came to participate in a moment. They came to be present for history. Every chant, every flag waved, every cheer after a single point carried something deeper than routine support. It carried identity. It carried belief. It carried the collective hopes of millions. The energy in that stadium wasn't chaos, and it certainly wasn't entitlement. It was unapologetic national pride, expressed in its purest form. Court 6, a venue rarely remembered in Grand Slam history, was transformed into something unforgettable. For one match, it became a stage where a rising star and her people shared something larger than sport. It became a place where tennis felt alive, emotional, and deeply human. Alex Eala's debut now stands as a defining milestone, not just for Philippine tennis, but for global sports storytelling as a whole. It reminded the world that greatness isn't only measured in trophies or rankings. Sometimes, it's measured in connection, in how many people see themselves in an athlete, in how loudly a nation shows up when given a reason to believe. When raw talent meets unwavering support, history doesn't whisper, it announces itself. And when a country stands shoulder to shoulder behind one of its own, the world has no choice but to pay attention. This wasn't just the start of Alex Eala's Australian Open journey. It was the beginning of a larger narrative, one that stretches far beyond a single tournament. This is Alex Eala. This is Filipino pride. And this is history in motion. Alex Eala has just shown the world what happens when talent, heart, and the full force of a nation's support collide on the biggest stage. Now we want to hear from you. What do you think Alex's debut represents for tennis, for the Philippines, and for the future of global sports? Share your thoughts in the comments, and let's celebrate this historic moment together.